Fusang stepped out of a car. The blazing sun made her frown. As a being born from the resentment of others, she wasn't a fan of this kind of weather. However, the thought that both the hero and the villain had incredibly tragic childhoods meant the resentment they gave off had to be extraordinary. That's right. To her shame, she was tempted. I can feel so much resentment just walking up to the orphanage. Looks like taking this job wasn't a bad idea after all. As the granddaughter of the city's richest man, the orphanage director naturally picked out the most well-behaved children for Fusang to choose from. The kids, seeing how beautiful she was, all loved her and looked at her with hopeful eyes. Fusang looked around several times but couldn't find her targets. The system in her head came online at the right moment. The male lead is in the backyard. Director, could you take me to the backyard for a look? The director's expression stiffened. Miss Gu, the backyard is a mess. It's fine. I'll just take a quick look. As soon as she reached the backyard, she saw several children bullying the male lead. They were at an age of innocence, yet their words were exceptionally cruel. Pushed to the ground, Chu Yansui's face was blank, his dark eyes just watching them, which only earned him more vicious insults and kicks. Fusang watched from a distance, a complicated and unreadable expression in her eyes. Just die, all of you! A vicious thought bloomed in Chu Yansui's heart as he clenched his fists tightly. They're bullying you, don't you even know how to fight back? A heartbroken, girlish voice rang in Chu Yansui's ears. His long, thick eyelashes trembled, and a flicker of emotion finally appeared in his dark eyes. He looked up in Fusang's direction. Wow, the male lead was actually quite a looker as a kid. Seeing an adult arrive, the two children lost their earlier arrogance. Chu Yansui, however, acted incredibly well-behaved. Bullies are bad kids. The implication was that he was a good kid. After saying that, he got up and dusted off the back of his pants. A flicker of amusement crossed Fusang's eyes. What a clever little guy. To be able to hide his emotions so well at such a young age, he's a force to be reckoned with. A true male lead. If she hadn't felt that intense wave of resentment from him just now, she might have actually believed him. He stared blankly, finding it hard to believe, but he still followed obediently behind Fusang. Humph. He'll be back with his tail between his legs in 3 days. I heard the director say that everyone who tried to adopt him got into an accident on the way home. He's a jinx! Chu Yansui heard the children's unfiltered words clearly. He hung his head and said nothing. Maybe they were right. He would definitely be sent back. Fusang glanced over at the group of children and spoke, her voice loud enough for them to hear. It's no wonder no one wants to adopt you. He looked up at the beautiful girl in front of him, a hint of confusion in his dark eyes. Was she just defending me? Maybe she'll be different. The blunt Fusang didn't notice his subtle shift in mood. She just opened the car door and plopped him inside. Do you know how to buckle a seatbelt? Chu Yansui nodded. The other people who had tried to adopt him had also come in cars. Fusang drove fast, completely forgetting there was a 6-year-old in the passenger seat. Chu Yansui gripped the seatbelt tightly, his face pale. He didn't dare say he got carsick and could only fight back the nausea rising in his stomach. The system panicked. Lady Fusang! You're supposed to be raising a child. Stop driving like a maniac, the male lead can't take it. Fusang was a little annoyed but slowed down. Suddenly, a white car swerved into her lane. Fusang expertly drifted to avoid a crash. But Chu Yansui's head slammed against the window. Seeing her kid get hurt, Fusang got irritated. She stormed out of the car to confront the other driver. The driver was a middle-aged man who knew he was in the wrong and quickly apologized. But before he could finish, a delicate female voice came from behind him. Gu Fusang, fancy meeting you here. Fusang genuinely had no idea who this was. The system quickly reminded her, this is your half-sister. The plot only triggers when you meet specific characters. Seeing Fusang's blank look, the girl said playfully, how about this? Apologize and I'll let it go. Oh, a little villainous, are we? Fusang reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of cash. Then she threw it right in the girl's face. Back in the car, Chu Yansui looked like he'd done something wrong and quietly said, I'm sorry. What are you apologizing for? It wasn't your fault. They were driving on the wrong side of the road, Fusang said nonchalantly. Chu Yansui clenched his little fists even tighter. Everyone who wants to adopt me gets into an accident on the way home. Just like the kids at the orphanage said, I'm a jinx. He was going to be abandoned again, wasn't he? Then why? Did it still hurt? Fusang gently ruffled the little guy's hair. So, what does my adopting you have to do with them? You just got hurt. We're going to the hospital. Even a future domineering CEO is scared of the hospital as a kid. Although the doctor did his best to be gentle, Chu Yansui dodged him perfectly, as if his evasion stats were maxed out. Fusang sighed. He doesn't like being touched by strangers. Is there a way to reduce the swelling quickly? The doctor thought for a moment, then asked kindly, Little guy, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere else? Chu Yansui shook his head, his face expressionless, but he secretly hid his injured hand behind his back. Then it's not a big deal. Just put some ice on it when you get home. As they left the doctor's office, Fusang heard the system's notification. The villain is 50 meters directly north of you. Fusang got a little excited and quickly pulled Chu Yansui in that direction. As they got closer, she felt a thick wave of resentment. It had to be the villain Chao Yue. A group of people was gathered ahead, including family members of patients and nurses. Sweetie, think carefully. Do you have any other friends or relatives? His eyes were dark and very bright, but they looked hollow and empty. He said weakly, No. Fusang stared at him. What a poor thing. Is this really the villain who's going to destroy the world in the future? Excuse me, how much are his medical bills? I'll pay. The crisp, girlish voice stood out in the noisy hallway, and everyone turned to look, their eyes filling with surprise. Chaoya looked over with the others. When he saw Fusang, a flicker of emotion finally appeared in his empty eyes. Having someone willing to pay was a good thing, of course. The nurse handed Fusang the bill and told her to pay on the first floor. Throughout the whole thing, Chu Yansui was silent, his expression shifting from confusion to quiet contemplation. It was clear Fusang was rich, but he didn't understand why she would suddenly help a strange beggar. Just like at the orphanage, there were so many kids she could have adopted, but she chose him, the quiet loner. Was it because she had some kind of special preference? As Gu Fusang went to pay for Chao Yue's mother's medical bills, people shot disgusted looks at Chao Yue, but he remained unfazed, long used to such stares. His numb expression made him look like a lifeless puppet. The carefree Fusang, however, was happily basking in the resentment wafting from the two kids on either side of her, oblivious to their feelings. After she paid, she said to Chao Yue, We'll meet again. Chao Yue stared blankly at the kind young woman, speechless for a long time. He watched her slender figure disappear at the hospital entrance. Will we really meet again? A hint of longing appeared in his vacant eyes. Is that little boy her brother? I'm so jealous. Don't be stupid. How could a sewer rat like me ever stand in the sun? The scene changed, and Fusang brought Chu Yansui home. Chu Yansui had been on edge since he got out of the car. It was the first time he had ever seen such a beautiful house. Before he could process it, Fusang introduced him to her grandfather. The boy's nerves immediately tensed up, and he said numbly, Hello, Grandpa. Gu Nanshu sensed his nervousness and smiled kindly, ruffling his hair. What a good boy. He then told Fusang to show him to his room. The boy almost gasped. Is this really my room? He quickly caught himself, his face flushing slightly. Fusang suddenly walked over. Give me your left hand. Chu Yansui was caught off guard by the sudden move. The girl sighed. If you're hurt, you need to say so. Don't hide it, okay? She then carefully dabbed his wound with alcohol. Are you going to send me back? Chu Yansui suddenly blurted out in a childish voice. Send you back where? To the orphanage? The system quickly jumped in to offer advice, genuinely afraid that the blunt Fusang would say something devastating. Seeing Fusang's silence, the boy's dark eyes filled with a pleading look. I can do chores. I can learn anything. I don't want to go back. Fusang smiled and gently tapped his forehead. Don't worry. Even if you begged me to let you go, I wouldn't. Finally, a smile bloomed on Chu Yansui's face, his dark pupils seeming to sparkle with starlight. For the next few days, he worked hard to be on his best behavior, trying to please everyone. Chu Yansui had been at the house for 3 days, but he was still worried Fusang would send him back. He tried his best to be good and please everyone. Today, he helped the housekeeper make sandwiches and took the opportunity to ask casually, Ma'am, is there anything Big Sis likes? The housekeeper understood his intentions. You mean the young miss? I've practically watched her grow up. She's very kind and easy to get along with. You shouldn't worry too much. The young miss personally adopted you from the orphanage, which means she must like you. Did Fusang like him? Chu Yansui didn't think so. He remembered the first time they met when he was being bullied by a group of kids. She probably just felt sorry for him. Fusang felt so unattainable, yet she drew people in. Big sis, I made this for you, try it. Chu Yansui nervously placed the sandwich in front of Fusang. When she praised him, his face flushed with excitement. Gunan Shu, assisted by the butler, slowly made his way to the dining room. He greeted Chu Yansui kindly. Yansui, good morning, Grandpa. Yansui is 6 now, isn't he? I was thinking of sending you to school after the summer break. Hearing the old man's words, Chu Yansui's eyelashes fluttered. He then smiled. Whatever Grandpa says. Fusang wiped a milk mustache from her lip with a napkin and said slowly, Wait until I bring the other kid back. Then you can enroll them both, Grandpa. You idiot, this water is scalding. Are you trying to burn me, you useless piece of trash? What are you still standing there for? Go get something to clean this up. Did I raise you just to eat for free? The patient in the next bed couldn't watch anymore. Why are you taking it out on the child? It's not all his fault. Chow Jenny was the perfect embodiment of a shrew. Even though the other person was an elder in her 50s or 60s, she continued her tirade. Chow Yue numbly started to turn to get the broom from the corner of the room. This was his daily life. He was used to it, wasn't he? Suddenly, the door was opened by a familiar voice. Chow Yue recognized her. It was the kind person who had paid his bills not long ago. The girl's smile seemed to have a magical quality, chipping a small hole in the boy's numb heart. His tightly clenched fists slowly relaxed. Fusang's gaze swept over the villain before she asked, Who is Chow Jenny? The woman looked rich. Chow Jenny's whole demeanor changed. May I ask why you're looking for me? Fusang got straight to the point. I want your son. Name your price. What? Everyone in the room was stunned. That was illegal. Even the system couldn't take it anymore. Fusang, do you have any concept of subtlety? Don't leave a bad impression on the villain. Fusang, however, was completely unfazed. She handed the adoption papers to Chow Jenny, telling her that any conditions were negotiable. Chow Yue just stared at them blankly, not saying a word. You think you can take my son with just these terms? In your dreams. Chow Jenny threw the contract at Fusang. I carried him for 10 months. She was clearly trying to jack up the price. Fusang didn't hesitate. Fine, 500,000 for emotional damages. Chow Jenny tried to calm herself down. Seeing Chow Jenny's silence, Fusang raised the price to 1 million. Chow Jenny trembled with excitement. In her eyes, her child was just a burden. She'd rather enjoy a life of luxury. But a greedy look had already filled her eyes. You think 1 million is enough to compensate me? Don't be ridiculous. Chow Yue is the apple of my eye. The last glimmer of hope in Chow Yue's heart shattered. He had never felt a single ounce of motherly love from her. As expected, she was never satisfied. 2.5 million. If you're still not satisfied, then there's nothing I can do. Fusang shrugged, having seen through her long ago. This was how the rich insulted people. Fearing Fusang would go back on her word, Chow Jenny grabbed Chow Yue's hand. You handle the adoption procedures. From now on, Chow Yue has nothing to do with me. She forcefully pushed Chow Yue forward, and Fusang caught him. Chow Yue looked at Fusang timidly. He desperately wanted to escape this place. Fusang silently studied him for a moment, then turned and walked out the door. Behind her, Chow Yue mustered up his courage. I'm easy to raise. I won't cause you any trouble. Fusang smiled slightly. The little guy was clearly overthinking things. Chow Yue quietly followed behind her. He didn't know what awaited him, but even if Fusang's home was a lion's den, it was 1,000 times better than being with his mother. He had imagined many possibilities for his future, but he never expected to be taken to a bathhouse. Fusang began her kid remodeling project. Chow Yue was covered in wounds. She had no idea how he had survived all these years. His body was clean now, but some things could never be washed away. After changing his clothes, Chow Yue nervously fidgeted with the hem of his shirt, looking very out of place. Fusang finally got a good look at him. He was as delicate as a porcelain doll. Your hair needs a trim, and the clothes don't quite fit. Come on, let's go to the mall. The little puppy nodded obediently. Getting a haircut, shopping, going to the mall. Such a life was so far removed from his own. But now, because of Fusang, it was all changing. On the way home, Chow Yue looked up at her. It was the first time he had ever felt the warmth of the world. Fusang quickly said, Grandpa, this is Chow Yue. From now on, he and Chu Yansui will be my little brothers. Gunanshu chuckled and beckoned to Chow Yue. Ah, Yue, make yourself at home here. You and Yansui are both part of the Gu family now. If anyone bullies you outside, you come and tell Grandpa and I'll back you up. The old man's words were a bit rambling, but to the two children they were filled with warmth. Yansui, why don't you show Ayue to his room? Chu Yansui stood up obediently, a friendly smile in his eyes as he looked at Xiaoyue. Watching the two boys disappear up the stairs, Fusang worried. They should be able to get along, right? Chu Yansui led Xiaoyue to the room next to his and said proudly, "The room closest to Big Sis is mine." Xiaoyue just grunted. This person is so weird. Chu Yansui, however, was worried he would steal Fusang away. He smiled innocently. "Let's get along from now on." Xiaoyue ignored him and eagerly opened the door to his room. It was the most beautiful room he had ever seen. He felt like he was in a dream. Chu Yansui's gaze fell on Xiaoyue's longish hair and he suddenly asked, "You're a boy, right?" Xiaoyue felt insulted. Just then, Fusang appeared. She walked up behind them and, seeing them both standing at the door, asked casually, "Don't you like it?" Xiaoyue clenched his hands and whispered, "I like it." Chu Yansui stared at the villain's profile for a moment and let out a soft itch. But he quickly hid the displeasure in his eyes and returned to his usual obedient demeanor. Over the next few days, Xiaoyue learned from the servants that Chu Yansui was also adopted by Fusang. The two children competed secretly but didn't dare to show their dislike for each other openly. At least not in front of Fusang, where they had to be loving and friendly. Gunanshu saw all of this and, thinking of their backgrounds, his heart ached for them. 6-year-old children should be cuddled in their parents' arms, yet they had endured so much hardship. How could one not feel for them? On the surface, the two top-tier schemers were perfectly harmonious, but in reality, they were secretly competing. Even at the dinner table, they couldn't resist competing. Xiaoyue struggled a bit, leaning over to pick up a chicken wing and painstakingly placing it in Fusang's bowl. His cheeks were a little red. "Big sis, have a chicken wing." Chu Yansui wasn't to be outdone. He smiled sweetly. "The housekeeper's chicken wings are delicious. You should have more, big sis." The atmosphere suddenly became a little strange. The two boys turned to look at each other, and sparks flew. Gunanshu, however, was all smiles. "Seeing you two get along so well makes me very happy. In the future, when I'm gone, you'll be there to protect Sangsang." Then the old man turned to Fusang. "I've already handled the school enrollment. You can take Yansui and Ayue to buy some school supplies today." When Fusang took the two boys to the downtown mall, they attracted a lot of attention. "Oh my gosh, look, those two kids are so beautiful. I wonder how stunning their parents must be." When they mentioned parents, both Chu Yansui's and Xiaoyue's expressions darkened. Chu Yansui had been abandoned at the orphanage since he was a baby and had no parents, while Xiaoyue only had a deadbeat mother who beat him for fun. Fusang sensed the shift in their moods and gently ruffled their hair. "Come on, let's go buy your things." But in her carelessness, she walked a little too fast, and soon a gap formed between them. Chu Yansui and Xiaoyue had to jog to keep up. The system quickly reminded her, "Fusang, do you have a motor attached to you? Can't you wait for the hero and villain? You're not being a very attentive caretaker." Fusang immediately slowed down. Chu Yansui and Xiaoyue noticed her slower pace, suppressed their gloomy feelings, and walked on either side of her. The mall was bustling with people. Xiaoyue, still not used to crowds, instinctively reached out and took Fusang's hand. Well, he beat me to it." The male lead narrowed his eyes and, not wanting to be left behind, also took Fusang's other hand. Next came the anxious wait. What was it like to have two incredibly handsome kids holding your hands? At that moment, even the emotionally dense Fusang was delighted. The children's palms were soft, and it was quite comfortable. Seeing that Fusang didn't pull away, both boys' cheeks flushed with a shy red. So this is what it felt like to have a grown-up hold your hand. Suddenly, the system's voice echoed in her mind. "Fusang, headquarters sent me a book, 101 Ways to Raise Children. I think you could use it." Fusang stopped in her tracks and flatly refused. "Just throw that thing away. That's an insult to my abilities and my intelligence. You think I don't know how to raise kids?" System. Without the book, the system was genuinely afraid Fusang would lead the two kids astray. Chu Yansui asked with concern, "Big sis, are you not feeling well?" Xiaoyue felt that he was leveling up too fast. His first impression of Chu Yansui was right. He was not to be underestimated. "Big sis, if you're not feeling well, we can go home. We can always come back another time," Xiaoyue said. Fusang's heart was about to melt. "I'm fine. I just heard a dog barking." Both boys looked confused. Come on, let's go shopping. Leaving the system fuming. Fusang couldn't care less. You guys look around the store. I'm going to the restroom. Chu Yansui nodded obediently. Okay, big sis, I won't wander off, and I'll watch Aiyue to make sure he doesn't either. Chaoyue quickly added, Big sis, I won't wander off. Perhaps because he was too eager, the villain's face turned red. The moment Fusang was out of sight, the two perfectly demonstrated what a quick change artist was. They turned and looked at the products on the shelves with blank expressions. Just then, the male lead felt a gust of wind. Chaoyue walked up to him, his voice childish but cold. Chu Yansui, there's no need to throw me under the bus like that. Chu Yansui chuckled but didn't say anything. Move it, you're in the way! The two boys turned to see a pretty girl holding a chubby kid's hand. She looked at the hero and villain with a smug expression. Hey, aren't these the two kids who were with Fusang? Last time she embarrassed me after the car accident. This time I'm going to give her a taste of her own medicine. Go, Pikachu! Pikachu stepped forward and gave Chu Yansui a hard shove. Caught off guard, Chu Yansui fell and landed on his bottom. The stinging pain from his scraped palms made him frown. The little fatty grinned, a perfect picture of a bratty kid. Chu Yansui didn't get up right away. He wasn't sure if he should fight back, afraid of causing trouble for Fusang. The other shoppers gradually gathered around. From an outsider's perspective, the hero and the villain were the weaker party. Chaoyue was just as conflicted. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of Fusang's slender figure slowly walking toward them. His heart leaped into his throat. Might as well take a gamble. Chaoyue shouted with all his might, You jerk! Apologize to Yansui! The little fatty was stunned, and even Chu Yansui was confused. Why is Chaoyue suddenly standing up for me? We're not that close, are we? Then he saw Fusang appear. So that's it. Chaoyue is trying to show off. I can't lose to him! Chu Yansui quickly put on a slightly wronged expression and sat on the floor. Seeing her kid on the ground, Fusang's brows furrowed. My kid is being bullied? Gu Qingying feigned surprise. Oh, Fusang, what are you doing here? What a coincidence! Fusang vaguely remembered this girl. She didn't have a good impression of her. You don't own the mall. Why can't I be here? Fusang's gaze fell on Chu Yansui and the little fatty. Faced with her sharp look, the little fatty panicked. It wasn't me. Actor number one's soft voice chimed in. Big sis, it's not their fault. I wasn't standing properly and fell by accident. Actor number two followed close behind. I'm sorry, big sis. It's my fault for not protecting Yansui. If you're going to blame someone, blame me. Wow. With those two puppy dog eyes, Fusang's heart was about to melt. Fusang pulled Chu Yansui up from the ground and turned to face Gu Qingying, her eyes cold. What's so great about bullying a kid? Why don't you try bullying me? The previously arrogant sister and brother were instantly silenced. Gu Qingying quickly tried to smooth things over. Xiaoheng didn't mean it. Hurry up and apologize to the big brother. She pushed the little fatty forward. But the little fatty just glared and muttered that it was Chu Yansui's fault. Fusang gently patted Chu Yansui's shoulder. Don't be scared. Did he push you? Chu Yansui hesitated for a moment before nodding lightly. Fusang spoke to the little fatty in the kindest tone she could manage. You're saying Chu Yansui was in your way, so you pushed him, is that right? It sounded reasonable, so the little fatty said confidently, That's right. Fusang pulled Chu Yansui in front of her, a cold look in her eyes. Now he's in your way. You're going to push him back exactly how he pushed you. As soon as she said that, the crowd of onlookers started murmuring, with mixed opinions on her parenting style. When Chu Yansui walked toward the little fatty, the boy lost his earlier arrogance. He was clearly a spoiled kid who had developed a habit of bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Chu Yansui's eyes were filled with nothing but coldness. With a loud smack, the little fatty fell to the ground, crying and sniffling. The people around them, however, accused Chu Yansui of being too rough and threatened to post a video of it online. Truly, words could be formidable. Chu Yansui was at a loss, frantically explaining to Fusang, I only pushed him lightly. The implication was that the little fatty was faking it. Fusang smiled, seeing through his little trick. Still, she reached out and ruffled his hair, praising him. You did great. Her tone shifted. When someone bullies you, you fight back. If anything happens, I'll take care of it. Seeing Fusang's protectiveness, his heart warmed. Is this what it feels like to be cared for? The store clerk had to come over to mediate. Gu Qingying knew she couldn't win by force and could only drag the little fatty away in defeat. The little guy even told the hero with a pained expression, "It's all my fault. I didn't protect you." Wow, not only was the hero stunned, but even Fusang, who had adopted them, was speechless. The villain, however, was deep in character, telling the hero emotionally, "Next time, I definitely won't let anyone hurt you." Chu Yansui, of course, knew Qiao Yue was just putting on a show for Fusang, but with his big sis there, he couldn't really say anything. So Fusang got to watch the two actors politely defer to each other while buying stationery. She was thrilled. She turned and gently told them, "I know you were holding back because you were afraid of causing trouble for me. Remember, next time you're bullied, you have to fight back. I'll always be on your side." "Pinky promise!" Chu Yansui and Qiao Yue both looked up at Fusang, their faces breaking into smiles, their eyes as bright as stars. Both were filled with hope for the future. Qiao Yue was touched. "I'll protect Big Sis in the future," Chu Yansui followed up. "I'm older than Yue. I'll protect him, Big Sis, and Grandpa." She even tossed aside the child-rearing guide the system gave her, smugly believing that her method was the right one, and that using a guide would be an insult to her intelligence. Only the system noticed the two boys' strange behavior and looked on with worry. Sure enough, as soon as they got home, Chu Yansui went to find Qiao Yue, fuming. "Qiao Yue, did you take one of my books by mistake?" Qiao Yue wasn't polite either. "The clerk must have packed it wrong when we bought it." He tossed the book to him. After getting the book back, Chu Yansui had a punchable look on his face. "You can borrow it if you want to read it, if you can even read." With that, he closed the door, leaving Qiao Yue fuming. He had never been to kindergarten, so he really couldn't read. The little guy could only glare. But the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Qiao Yue picked up the book and walked out of his bedroom. "I can't let Chu Yansui get ahead of me. I can ask Big Sis to teach me." But when he got to Fusang's door, he hesitated. Will this be a bother to Big Sis? Coincidentally, Fusang opened her door and was a little surprised to see the little guy. Qiao Yue's face was flushed with nervousness as he explained why he was there. Luckily, Fusang didn't refuse and was very patient when teaching him to read. Qiao Yue learned quickly, and Fusang happily ruffled his little head. "So smart. You're my perfect little resentment generator." Outside the door, Chu Yansui saw this. His hand holding a book tightened, wrinkling the pages. Fusang noticed him. "Yansui, what are you doing standing there? Why don't you come in?" The little guy's expression changed in an instant. "I saw Big Sis teaching Yue to read and didn't want to disturb you." Qiao Yue looked at the innocent Chu Yansui with a skeptical expression. Fusang sighed softly. What a competitive little guy. She patted his head comfortingly. "You don't have to be so formal. You should learn to be a kid." Look, the little guys who were all smiles and love in front of Fusang just a moment ago. As soon as she went downstairs to answer the phone, the atmosphere turned strange. The scheming hero rested his chin on his hand and launched an attack. "You don't even know such simple words." The puppy dog villain was not to be outdone. "You're just jealous that I get to spend time alone with Big Sis." The two boys' gazes clashed in midair, a perfect example of a grade school squabble. But when Fusang returned to the room, she was greeted by a beautiful scene of brotherly love. The two boys were looking at each other. Chu Yansui pointed gently at the textbook. "This sentence is pronounced Yue. Great job." Qiao Yue looked obedient. "I'll remember that." Seeing the two children getting along so well, Fusang was quite surprised. From outside the door, she had clearly felt a thick wave of resentment from both of them, but now it seemed they were getting along just fine. Chu Yansui spoke before Qiao Yue could. The boy's smile was innocent, his dark eyes filled with laughter. "Big Sis, I know all the words in this book. I can teach Yue." What could Qiao Yue do? He had to reluctantly agree. Fusang was very satisfied. Just then, the system's voice came into her mind. "Lady Fusang, look how well-behaved the hero and villain are. Shouldn't you take them on that graduation trip?" It turned out Fusang had just received an invitation for a graduation trip from her classmates. The system quickly reminded her that her previous self had already accepted for her, and not going might offend people. A joke. Was Fusang afraid of offending people? She decisively hung up the phone. The system humbly tried to brainwash and entice her, suggesting she use this opportunity to take the two out and let them become close brothers. Fusang thought about it and felt it made some sense. She was convinced. "I'm going out for a few days. Do you two want to come along? Chu Yansui and Xiao Yue looked up at her at the same time, their faces filled with undisguised joy, their eyes clear and bright. Seeing them agree, Fusang had the two boys pack their things that afternoon. Watching their cheerful backs, Fusang had an indulgent look on her face. Kids really are easy to please. The night before they left, the two boys repeatedly checked their luggage, determined to have packed more thoroughly than the other. All night, both were too excited to sleep. Can kids get insomnia? What's it like to fly on a plane for the first time? You could tell just by looking at the nervous expressions on the hero and villain's faces. As soon as the plane took off, Chu Yansui's face turned pale and he felt a little uneasy. Am I airsick? Fusang turned her head and noticed his discomfort. It's normal to have your ears pop during takeoff. He answered honestly in a small voice. My ears feel funny. Fusang pulled a piece of gum from her bag and handed it to him. The sweetness of the gum spread across his tongue, and a hint of joy flashed in his dark eyes. It was just as Fusang had said, he felt a little better. Jealousy, pot number 1, Xiao Yue, witnessed the whole thing. He thought Chu Yansui was just being dramatic. He was also on a plane for the first time, so why didn't his ears feel funny? He's just playing pitiful. I can do that too. He mustered up his courage, reached out, and tugged on Fusang's sleeve, whispering, Big sis, can I have a piece? Fusang generously handed one to Xiao Yue as well. Jealousy, pot number 2, Chu Yansui, was also overflowing. Xiao Yue is so annoying. Every time I get close to Big Sis, that pest has to interrupt. Soon, because they hadn't slept well the night before, both boys grew sleepy and closed their eyes, their heads nodding as they leaned against Fusang's shoulders. She tiptoed to pull out a blanket and cover them. But Fusang herself didn't realize that without knowing it, she had started to genuinely want to take care of the two kids. The summer weather was hot, making the mountain resort an excellent choice. When the three of them arrived at the hotel, the receptionist told them there were only 2 rooms left. Seeing Fusang fall into thought, both boys' hearts tightened. Only 2 rooms left, how will Big Sis divide them? Will she choose me, or... Just then, Chu Yansui suddenly patted Xiao Yue's shoulder. I want to stay with A Yue. I'll take whichever room he picks. Xiao Yue, in turn, took Chu Yansui's hand, looking obedient. Great. Big Sis, I was just thinking I wanted to stay with Yansui. We'll take this room then. It has 2 beds. Okay, whatever A Yue says. Seeing the 2 boys' happy figures, Fusang smiled. They're getting along well. This trip wasn't a waste after all. While Fusang was happy that the 2 kids were being loving and friendly, on the other side, the atmosphere between them was getting tense. Both boys were trying to push their beds apart, attempting to create as much distance as possible. They had pulled the 1-for-1 trick because neither wanted the other to stay with Fusang. But they were still just kids, and soon they ran out of energy, their stomachs grumbling. As Fusang and the 2 kids were eating, she heard a sickeningly sweet voice call her name from behind. She turned around curiously and saw a very attractive couple. She was Fusang's college classmate, Lin Yujia. She greeted her enthusiastically. Sang-sang, I'm so glad you could make it. The next second, she put on a wronged expression. I thought you were mad at me and wouldn't come. I'm so glad you could forgive me. Fusang was confused. Did this girl major in face changing? Also, when was I ever mad at her? The system quickly reminded her. Lady Fusang, this is one of your fake friends from before you transmigrated. She caused you a lot of trouble in college. A super schemer. Lin Yujia couldn't sit still and turned her attention to Chu Yansui and Xiao Yue. What beautiful children. Perhaps her scheming aura was too strong, because both Chu Yansui and Xiao Yue subconsciously tried to move away. But she, looking excited, bent down and reached out to touch them. The 2 kids, after getting a glare from Chu Yansui, immediately put on scared expressions. Sang-sang, I knew you were still mad at me. Even your family's kids are hostile toward me. What did I do wrong? You can tell me and I'll change. Please don't be like this, okay? Wow, she can even blame this on me. Realizing what was happening, Fusang gave a small laugh and stroked Chu Yansui's head. Not at all, see? Isn't my little brother being good? Beside her, Chu Yansui was the picture of obedience. Perhaps the tables had turned too quickly, leaving the schemer at a loss. Kids are shy around strangers, it's normal, the schemer's boyfriend said from the side. Jia is overreacting a bit. I apologize on her behalf. He then extended his hand to Fusang, his gaze a little too heated. As he mentally plotted how to win over the Gu family's heiress, the two kids couldn't sit still any longer. You may not be a threat, schemer, but your boyfriend is a player. The two boys suddenly stood up. They grabbed the player's outstretched hand. Their faces were a picture of innocence, and you couldn't find a single flaw. We accept your apology. But both were secretly squeezing his hand hard. Joe Yuchi felt a sharp pain in his hand. Is it my imagination? Are they doing this on purpose? Looking at the two kids' harmless faces, he couldn't be sure. Don't worry, big brother. Big sis won't hold a grudge over something so small. But I wonder if this big sister will be angry. Lin Yujia felt a wave of manipulative energy wash over her. As she was thinking of a reply, she felt a tug on her clothes. Top-tier schemer Chu Yansui looked at her with innocent eyes. Big sis, I didn't mean to dodge you just now. I'm just a little shy. You won't hold a grudge against me for this and cause trouble for me later, will you? Schemer Naruto Xiao Yue also looked at her with a sincere expression. We really don't want to affect the friendship between you and our big sis because of us. If it will make you feel better, we'll do anything you ask. The people around them started to whisper. That girl made the two kids cry. I heard the kids wouldn't let her touch their heads, so she got angry and took it out on their sister. It takes all kinds, I guess. Lin Yujia finally couldn't keep up the act anymore. They were just as annoying as their sister. She reached out to grab the boys, but her hand was caught in mid-air by Fusang. Fusang was utterly disgusted with her. You dare touch my brothers? You think I'm dead? Fusang squeezed hard, causing her pain. The player boyfriend quickly tried to mediate. We're all classmates, let's talk this out. Seeing Fusang let go, he ignored his own girlfriend and instead consoled Fusang. Don't let a small thing like this ruin our friendship. Calm down. Let's go have some fun together. My treat. Fusang quickly stopped him. Stop hitting on me. Your girlfriend is standing right there, and she can see your little game. Leaving the arguing couple behind, she walked away gracefully with her two kids. What the heck is a force to join a full-time mom chat group? That's right. This was the system's reward for Fusang defending her two kids. At that moment, a stampede of horses was running through Fusang's mind. What is there to chat about? I'm raising resentment generators. How is that the same as their kids? Leave the group. The system's annoying voice piped up. This is a system-bound group. You can't leave. Just then, a message popped up in the group. Sigh, my son has been crying for candy every day lately. If I don't buy it, he throws a tantrum on the floor. Yes, my son too. He's been really into sweets lately. Fusang, who had just been demanding to leave the group, fell into thought. So, kids like sweet things? You two wait here for me. I'll be right back. Although the two kids agreed, they were confused. Where did Big Sis go? A short while later, Fusang returned with 2 cotton candies in her hand. Strawberry for Yansui and orange for Ayue. Seeing the two kids' happy faces, Fusang guessed she had picked their favorite flavors and felt pleased with herself. For some reason, seeing them happy seemed to make her happy too. Just then, Chaoyue noticed Fusang's gaze. The little guy held his cotton candy out to her, his eyes bright. Big sis, have some. Fusang hesitated for a moment before leaning down and taking a bite. It melted in her mouth. It was pretty good. Chu Yansui watched this, the smile on his lips fading. He lowered his eyes to hide a cold glint. He beat me to it again. Chaoyue is so annoying. Fusang sensed Chu Yansui's slight displeasure. She was always very sensitive to people's emotions. You don't like it? Chu Yansui quickly explained, the beautiful boy's eyes shining like stars. I like everything Big Sis buys. Just then, Chaoyue took Fusang's hand. Big Sis, there's a really pretty lake over there. Let's go check it out, okay. Chu Yansui followed behind, thinking to himself, I wish I was the only one by her side. A gentle, cool breeze blew, feeling refreshing against their faces. Fusang loved the temperature and the scenery. She gazed at the view in the distance. When she looked down a moment later, she saw the two kids' eyes fixed on a family taking pictures nearby. The parents' faces were beaming with happiness, and the child between them was also smiling joyfully. A look of disappointment filled the two boys' big eyes. Fusang had no experience raising kids or being close to humans, but she could sense the deep-seated loneliness in their hearts. Let's take a picture together. Just as a memento. They looked up at Fusang, blinking in confusion, and asked uncertainly, A picture? Fusang nodded and took out her phone. She scanned the area, then walked over to a girl and handed her the phone. Could you please help us take a picture? The girl readily agreed to her request. Fusang chose the spot where the family of three had been standing, with the sparkling lake as their backdrop. Fusang stood in the middle. The two boys were tense, looking awkwardly at the camera. "Hey, relax your expressions a bit and... Miss, could you kneel down?" Fusang did as she was told, kneeling down so she was on the same level as the two boys. All three of them were stunningly beautiful. The boys' features were still childish, but it was easy to see they would grow up to be heartbreakers who would charm countless girls. Just as the girl was about to press the shutter, Chu Yansui suddenly turned his head and pressed his cool lips to Fusang's cheek. With a click, the moment was captured. A faint blush spread across Chu Yansui's cheeks, his ears turning red to the tips. Fusang was a bit stunned. Why did Chu Yansui suddenly kiss me? Does he want more motherly love? Beside them, Chao Yue, still unaware of what had happened, looked on with wide, curious eyes. Fusang stared blankly at the photo. Do humans just like to kiss when they take pictures? She clearly didn't think much of what had just happened. At that moment, Chao Yue couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. "Big sis, can I see the photo?" But when Chao Yue saw the picture, the joy in his eyes was instantly replaced by shock. Chu Yansui is so sly. Chao Yue grabbed the hem of Fusang's dress and gave it a gentle shake. He tilted his head up, his voice soft and whiny, as if he were pleading, "Big sis, I want to take a picture kissing you too, just like Yansui." As his rival, Chu Yansui obviously knew what he was planning and couldn't let him succeed. He took Fusang's hand and yawned. "Big sis, can we go back to the hotel and rest now?" Fusang glanced at the sky. It was indeed getting to be evening. "We have other places to visit tomorrow. Let's head back for today." On the way back, Chao Yue slowed his pace, watching the laughing pair ahead of him. A child's heart is especially sensitive. Why won't Big Sis take the same picture with me? Is it first come, first served? Maybe she likes Chu Yansui more since he came first. His small heart was filled with insecurity. Fusang, however, didn't notice anything was wrong and took them out to play the next day as planned. When Fusang called the two boys to go boating, Chao Yue had to force himself to look happy in front of her. When they reached a grassy field, Chu Yansui gave Fusang the flowers he had picked. Seeing her happy expression, Chao Yue stared blankly, at a loss. He didn't dare give her the flowers he had picked, just as he didn't dare to confirm his suspicion that Chu Yansui was more important to her than he was. Just then, Fusang finally noticed Chao Yue's strange behavior. "Ah Yue, what's wrong? You've been down all day." She gently tapped the little guy's head. "What are you spacing out for? Aren't you going to come and play?" Chao Yue clutched the flowers in his hand tightly, not wanting Fusang to see his pain. He turned and started to run. "Let's hurry and climb the mountain, the sun is about to set." But he tripped hard on a rock. Luckily, just as he was about to fall, Fusang caught him. Fusang was worried sick and quickly asked if he was hurt. Chao Yue just hung his head and said nothing. Worried about his condition, Fusang decided to take the two kids home. But this made Chao Yue feel even worse, thinking he had ruined the trip. He was afraid Fusang would find him troublesome. He wanted to become a better person, so maybe then he would be worthy of always standing by her side. By the time the three of them got home, it was completely dark. Fusang quickly sent the growing boys to bed. Perhaps because he had been so stressed these past few days, Chao Yue's eyes were filled with exhaustion, and the luggage in his hand felt much heavier. "My head is so dizzy and it hurts. What's wrong with me?" After returning to his bedroom, the little guy quickly splashed his face with cold water. Looking at his weak reflection in the mirror, he told himself he couldn't sleep yet. He hadn't finished his studies for the day. To always stand by his big sis's side, he had to become an outstanding person. He had to work hard and surpass Chu Yansui. Only then would Fusang choose him. Late into the night, the little guy's coughing grew worse. He stared at the cup of water in front of him and tried to reach for it, but the dizziness intensified. A feeling of suffocation washed over him, and he, along with the cup, crashed to the floor. What kind of mother becomes her son's worst nightmare? In his dream, Chao Yue was still living with his mother, Chao Jenny, in the slums. Chao Jenny was an alcoholic who would beat him for fun when she was drunk. The scars on Chao Yue's body would barely heal before new ones replaced them. He tried to fight back, but that only enraged Chao Jenny more. He was only 6. He was no match for an adult. Every time Chao Jenny hit him, Chao Yue was like a lifeless puppet, letting her beat and scold him. No matter how much it hurt, he would bite his lip and not make a sound. Chao Yue hated the word mother. Every night he would silently pray for Xiao Jenny to disappear from this world. But heaven did not favor him, and Xiao Jenny continued to live on. Xiao Yue vaguely remembered one year when Xiao Jenny took him to live in a young man's beautiful house. During that time, Xiao Jenny was unusually good-tempered and spoke to him gently. But Xiao Yue wasn't happy. Instead, he was constantly scared. The man would play shooting simulation games and often made Xiao Yue stand there as his target. When the red dot aimed at Xiao Yue's forehead, he would press the switch. With a bang, the pale-faced child would collapse to the ground. "Coward! Your posture is wrong. You're such a wimp, can't you just stand still?" And his mother would watch coldly from the sidelines, even joining in. During that time, Xiao Yue was tortured until he was barely human. He was only 4 years old. Xiao Yue had never known warmth. He felt enveloped by darkness and despair. No one loved him, and he loved no one. Perhaps he had never been blessed by the gods. He was dirty and gloomy, unlikable. He was someone even the gods despised. Xiao Yue lay restlessly in the hospital bed, his small face flushed with an unnatural red. Why does everyone hate me?" Fusang looked at Xiao Yue, her face full of concern. "Ah, Yue, no one hates you. Young Master Qiao probably hasn't rested well these past few days. And on top of that, he caught a cold, which caused a low-grade fever." Chu Yansui stood by the bed, a hint of worry now in his dark eyes. "Big sis, is he okay?" Fusang ruffled the little guy's head. "It's okay, don't worry. Go to the kitchen and ask someone to make him some porridge." "Mommy, be good and don't leave me." Xiao Yue's tearful voice drifted intermittently to Fusang's ears, his forehead covered in a fine sweat. The system's voice sounded in her ear. "The villain must be dreaming about his past. Fusang, try holding his hand." Fusang studied Xiao Yue carefully, finally following the system's advice and reaching out to hold the boy's hand. A powerful wave of resentment washed over her. She could clearly feel Xiao Yue's despair. Even as a former resentment spirit, she was secretly alarmed. Fusang stood up from her chair, leaned over, and gently placed a kiss on Xiao Yue's forehead. Her voice was gentle. "I'm here with you. I won't let anyone bully you. I will always protect you." Whether it was the kiss or her words, the restless child gradually calmed down. His furrowed brow smoothed out, but he still didn't let go of Fusang's hand. Even the system was curious. "Lady Fusang, how did you do that?" Fusang replied matter-of-factly, "If you have a problem, you go to the full-time mom chat group, of course." When Xiao Yue woke up, he secretly glanced at the daydreaming Fusang. "Did Big Sis just kiss me? If so, I'd rather my illness took a little longer to heal." His small hand unconsciously tightened its grip on Fusang's. Under Fusang's careful care, his cold was cured, but he became even clingier to her. When Fusang took the two boys to register for school, she noticed a little girl who stood out in the noisy crowd. Seeing her, the system quickly reminded Fusang, the girl in front is the original female lead. Looking at the pretty little girl, Fusang fell into thought. The kids I'm raising became mortal enemies because of this little girl. Her interest was piqued. She had the system send over the complete original plot. The scene appeared in Fusang's mind. A young Shen Luxi was a kind and cheerful girl, liked by everyone, including, of course, Chu Yansui and Xiao Yue. Her appearance was like a ray of light that shone into the dark lives of two world-weary people, giving the two lonely souls companionship and becoming their only salvation, reigniting their passion for life. However, when her kindness and universal love turned into indecisiveness, her wavering in the face of their intense pursuit caused the misunderstandings between the hero and the villain to deepen, eventually leading to a fight to the death and a complete break. The two world-weary individuals ended up destroying the entire world along with themselves. Reading this, Fusang couldn't help but complain about the cliché plot. Are the kids I'm raising that desperate for love? She then asked, does this mean I can leave once they've grown up to be upstanding young men? After getting the system's confirmation, Fusang's feelings were a bit complicated. Wasn't this the outcome she had always wanted? Then why did she feel a little annoyed? Just then, she felt a tug on her dress. Big sis, my mom isn't here. Can you help me comb my hair? Lost in thought, Fusang was a bit puzzled, but seeing the female lead acting cute, she couldn't bring herself to refuse. However, the looks the two boys behind her were giving her didn't seem very friendly. Thank you, big sis. You're as kind as you are beautiful. The little girl's big eyes seemed to hold the stars. After saying that, she gave Fusang a big hug. Fusang assumed this was just the original female lead's personality and didn't think much of it. She had no idea that Shen Luxi was also a transmigrator. As soon as she arrived, she had gone to orphanages, hospitals, and all sorts of places, but couldn't find the male lead. So she finally decided to wait for him at school. Just as she was celebrating finding the main characters, she noticed an older sister with them who didn't exist in the original story. Seeing how dependent they were on her, Shen Luxi couldn't help but wonder if her transmigration had altered the plot. Whatever, having a sister is even better. I can get close to the male lead by getting on her good side. And she's so pretty! As a member of the Pretty Face Lovers Club, the female lead's eyes were sparkling. She was already sure of her success, which was why she had just hugged Fusang. But she didn't know that because of that hug, she had left a bad impression on the main characters. Faced with their glares, Shen Luxi couldn't help but wonder if she had gotten the wrong script. But with her high level of transmigration experience, she quickly adjusted and still greeted the main characters with a bright smile. But the two boys' coldness once again made the atmosphere awkward. It wasn't until Fusang ruffled their heads and explained, "They're a bit shy and not very good at socializing." "She's being so friendly. Shouldn't you respond? That's how you make friends." The two boys quickly agreed. The next second, their young faces were filled with sunny friendliness as they enthusiastically greeted Shen Luxi. Before Fusang left, she reminded the two boys to get along well with the other children. Both of them warmly said goodbye to her. But when they got to the classroom, they put on a stay away from me expression again. This made the female lead, Shen Luxi, exclaim, "Wow, we're both future CEOs this moody as kids." Well, I'll figure out a way to win them over later. To figure out what was going on, she tried to talk to the main characters again, wanting to find out where the sister who appeared out of nowhere came from. But the two main characters' cold stares almost made her give up. "Why are you asking?" "Mind your own business." "Don't be so cold, I was just asking. Everyone appreciates beauty, right?" A classmate chimed in. "I saw your sister too. She's like a fairy." "Can I trade my mom for your sister? My mom can do laundry and cook." Both boys clenched their little fists in anger. Fusang was their weak spot. Just then, a little fatty walked over. His presence was so commanding that the other students instinctively made way for him. The two boys recognized him. It was the kid who had caused trouble at the stationery store. The class bully, Yu Xiaoheng, looked at them with disdain and slandered Fusang. "Gu Fusang is like a shrew. She just bullies people because she's rich." The two boys shot up in anger, but Yu Xiaoheng wasn't fazed and continued to taunt them. The two called a temporary truce and, with perfect coordination, united against the common enemy, shutting him up with just a few words. Seeing that they dared to talk back, the little fatty got angry and threatened the students around him. "Who do you think she's more like?" The boys, afraid of him, had no choice but to agree with him. Just then, the heroine angrily went to confront Yu Xiaoheng. But he quickly shut her down due to her awkward position. Qiaoyue and Chu Yansui found his behavior childish and boring and prepared to leave. Seeing himself being ignored, Yu Xiaoheng got even angrier. He grabbed Qiaoyue and yanked him back hard. "There's no one here to back you up." Caught off guard, Qiaoyue fell heavily to the ground. Not satisfied, he dumped the textbooks out of his school bag. "You fatherless, motherless stray. You don't deserve such nice things." He then proceeded to tear up Qiaoyue's notebook. Seeing their angry faces, the little fatty thought he had won. "I tore them up, so what?" Suddenly, Qiaoyue, who was sitting on the ground, shot up and punched him in the face. "You dare touch my sister's things?" "You're asking for it!" Qiaoyue straddled him, venting his emotions. The fight scared the other students. Hearing that someone was going to get a teacher, Chu Yansui and Shen Luxi quickly rushed to stop Qiaoyue. "Stop fighting! If you keep going, you'll get our sister in trouble." Hearing the word sister, Qiaoyue finally calmed down. By now, the little fatty on the ground was in tears. Soon, the fatty's mother, Mrs. Yu, arrived at the school. Without finding out what happened, she demanded an explanation from the teacher and called Qiaoyue a stray. "Are you deaf? You hit someone and you can't even apologize?" Qiaoyue didn't care about the insults. He was more worried about causing trouble for his sister. "Will she start to dislike me?" The little fatty hid in Mrs. Yu's arms, playing the victim. Shen Luxi couldn't stand it anymore and spoke up for Qiaoyue. But she was no match for the seasoned shrew, Mrs. Yu, and was quickly drowned out by her verbal assault. After dealing with Shen Luxi, Mrs. Yu turned back to yell at Qiaoyue's guardian. "With such impolite children, their parents must be no good either." Hearing his sister being insulted, the two silent boys instantly flared up. You can insult me, but you absolutely cannot insult my sister. But her arrogance continued. So what if I insulted her, you uneducated brats? Just as she arrived at the door, Fusang heard the sharp words. A woman like you who only knows how to scream and shout, why don't you look at yourself for a change? Chaoye looked up at Fusang, his fair face filled with self-blame. The little fatty, however, emboldened by his mother's presence, became arrogant again, like a dog with its owner at the other end of the leash. This stray hit me so hard he broke the skin. He must be expelled. Fusang just sneered. So this is the stray who fought with my Ayue? Hearing her son being called a stray, Mrs. Yu was furious. Who are you calling a stray? She raised her hand to slap Fusang. The two kids quickly shielded Fusang. However, her raised hand was caught in midair by Fusang, who squeezed it tightly. A slight bit of pressure made Mrs. Yu cry out in pain. Mrs. Yu quickly begged for mercy, as if afraid her arm would be broken if she was a second too late. Fusang's cold voice sounded in her ear, "You should be a good role model in front of the children." The three kids breathed a sigh of relief. Shen Luxie's eyes lit up, and she instantly became a fan. Big sis is so cool! Unable to win with words or fists, Mrs. Yu went to the teacher to throw a tantrum. This whole family is violent. Her brother hit my son, and now she's trying to hit me. Fusang gently ruffled Chaoyue's head. Ayue, tell me what happened. Chaoyue, however, was conflicted. How can I explain it without causing trouble for Big Sis? Mrs. Yu grew smug. See, he's stuttering. He can't make anything up. Then let's check the security footage. At this, Yu Xiaoheng panicked. Mrs. Yu, on the other hand, maintained her arrogant demeanor. After watching the footage, the teacher announced the result. Yu Xiaoheng had bullied his classmate first, and Chao Yu's reaction was a normal act of self-defense. Despite the clear evidence, Mrs. Yu continued to shout that her precious baby was just joking and started to play dumb, insisting that the problem must lie with Chao Yue. Her skin was certainly thick enough. Fusang, of course, wouldn't put up with her. Go get his notebook. You're going to tear it up just like he tore yours. Seeing Chao Yue hesitate, Fusang told him gently, Don't be afraid of the bully, and don't be afraid of causing trouble for anyone. You should learn to protect yourself better. Chu Yansui had already thoughtfully brought over the little fatty's book. Don't make me look down on you. Xiaoxia took the book. It seemed he had always been used to enduring, gradually forgetting what courage was. A coward had no right to stand by his sister's side. If he couldn't even protect himself, how could he protect his sister? As the book was torn in half, Chao Yue's gaze grew more determined. The little fatty saw Chao Yue's look and burst into tears. I didn't do anything wrong. I just did to you what you did to me. As Fusang was leaving with the two kids, Mrs. Yu was still throwing a tantrum at the teacher. Fusang ruffled the little guy's head. Ah Yue, you did great. Chu Yansui also felt he had done a good job this time. It was the first time Chao Yue had felt the protection of a family. The little guy linked arms with the two of them. I finally have a complete family. From now on, wherever they are, that's where my home is. After the fight where he got hurt, Chao Yue became even more dependent on Fusang, constantly finding reasons to be around her. To make matters worse, he even used the excuse of having nightmares to get her to hold him while he slept. Jealousy Potwar 1, Chu Yansui was about to explode. All he could do was write Chao Yue over and over in his little notebook at school to vent his frustration. I can't just sit back and do nothing. At this rate, Chao Yue will kick me out of the house. Just then, the heroine Shen Luxie's voice came from behind him. Why isn't Chao Yue here? Chu Yansui didn't want her to discover his little secret and quickly closed his notebook. He's sick, he took a day off. Just then, a boy came to the door and stammered that the math teacher was looking for Chu Yansui. The heroine, however, with her years of transmigration experience, sensed something was wrong and followed behind him, uneasy. Sure enough, there was trouble. The class bully, Yu Xiaoheng, was pointing at Chu Yansui, his face full of anger, ready to repay yesterday's humiliation tenfold. Seeing Chu Yansui's calm expression, which he took as a sign of disrespect, the bully got angry and threw a punch at his chest. But Chu Yansui caught it firmly. Oh no, the little fatty panicked. He couldn't break free even with all his strength. When Chu Yansui let go, the little fatty fell to the ground due to inertia. Seeing this, the heroine's eyes practically sparkled. As expected of the male lead, he's amazing. Seeing the little fatty crying on the ground, Chu Yansui had a flash of inspiration. If I get bullied too, can I be as clingy to Big Sis as Chao Yue is? He bent down and picked up a tree branch. The little fatty panicked even more. "What are you doing? If you dare hit me, I'll tell my mom." But Chu Yansui said very seriously, "You use this to bully me." Both the little fatty and the spying Shenluxi were stunned. Without giving him time to react, Chu Yansui tried to shove the branch into his hand. The little fatty panicked even more. "You're so mean! Stay away from me! Hurry up! Stop dawdling!" But the little fatty refused with all his might, broke free from Chu Yansui's demonic grip, and ran for his life. "Mom! School is so scary, I want to drop out!" Leaving a regretful Chu Yansui staring at the branch in his hand. "You can come out now." Shenluxi, having been discovered, just wanted to sneak away, but a cold voice came from behind her. "How much did you see?" The whole thing. It was pretty exciting." But now that the cat was out of the bag, Shenluxi asked her question. "Why did you want Yu Xiaoheng to hit you?" Chu Yansui didn't answer. Instead, he looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, a perfect picture of a melancholy little prince. "I have a question for you now." Shenluxi was so charmed she couldn't possibly refuse. Chu Yansui's face flushed slightly. "Do you know how to get a girl's attention?" "Huh? What do you mean? Is he trying to hit on me?" Clearly misinterpreting, Shenluxi cleared her throat. "One word, compete." She then solemnly handed him a reading list, confidently stating, "Just study this, and you'll definitely outcompete everyone in the galaxy." Chu Yansui looked at the reading list seriously. Really? Shenluxi's nose tilted up smugly. "Of course. Trust me. It's a sure thing. And if you make your move on a special day like a birthday or holiday, you'll reach a whole new level of competitiveness." Chu Yansui couldn't hear the rest. Big Sis's birthday seems to be coming up soon. Back at home, Chu Yansui flipped through the books, diligently taking notes. When he saw the cat demon whispering in the heroine's ear, "Accept this gift, and from now on, you will belong to me forever," the little guy's face turned red. But what should I give Big Sis for her birthday? Just then, a meow interrupted his thoughts. Following the sound downstairs, he saw Fusang holding a small black kitten. "I found it at the door. It looks a lot like you, so I played with it for a bit and found out it was injured." Chu Yansui looked at the kitten seriously. "How does it look like me?" But when he tried to feed the kitten, it was wary and wouldn't come near him. When he saw how it was with Fusang, how it only let its guard down around her, he had to admit that part was a lot like him. He was even more convinced when he saw Fusang give the kitten medicine. The way she took care of the kitten was just like how she had taken care of him. Back then, she had been like a ray of light, making you want to get closer without even thinking. Suddenly, the girl's crisp laughter interrupted his thoughts. Jealousy pot number 1 was slightly annoyed. This cat was too good at being cute. Why does it keep rubbing against me and licking me? Chu Yansui recalled the overbearing CEO manga he had just read and said with a profound look, "I read in a book once that cats mark their owners with their scent. It's doing that to claim you." Fusang teased the kitten. "That's an interesting theory. But unfortunately, Grandpa has asthma, so we can't keep it. But I'll take it to the best animal shelter." For some reason, when Chu Yansui saw the kitten being sent to the shelter, he felt a strange sense of empathy. If Fusang hadn't chosen him at the orphanage, would he have ended up like it? "I never want to leave Fusang, but how can I make her belong to me forever?" The little guy was lost in thought. Looking at the drawing of the gift he had made, he wondered, "If I give this to Fusang as a birthday present, can I mark her as mine?" Meanwhile, Xiaoyue was staring at the ceiling, also lost in thought. Big Sis's birthday is coming up. What should I get her? Chu Yansui has been acting sneaky lately. I wonder if he's secretly preparing a gift for her. But then he remembered Chu Yansui had said that when they grew up, he would make a lot of money and sell him back to Chao Jenny. The little guy panicked. He'd better go investigate. But when he got to his room, he found he wasn't there. Huh, what's that on his desk? Chao Yue curiously opened it and found a book about an overbearing CEO wooing women. I didn't know he was into this kind of thing. At school, Chao Yue was still thinking about what to get his sister for her birthday when he saw a few girls in his class playing a wishing paper game. Shenluxi saw him and invited him to join. Seeing Chao Yue's confused look, she explained, "You write your wish on this piece of paper, put it in a magic envelope, and in 3 months, your wish will come true." Shenluxi saw Chao Yue's interest. "Want to play? I'll give you a few. They're really effective." The little guy smiled, his beautiful peach blossom eyes exceptionally charming. The heroine was smitten again and generously gave Qiao Yue a bunch of them. Shen Luxi thought, after Qiao Yue writes his wish, I'll steal one and find out what he wants. That'll make it easier to win him over. Qiao Yue, on the other hand, was thinking of using this to find out Fusang's wish. When Qiao Yue got home, he saw Fusang lounging on the sofa. Big sis, can you play the wishing paper game with me? Fearing Fusang didn't know what it was, he quickly explained, you write your wish on a piece of paper and put it in a magic envelope to make it come true. Fusang stared blankly at the wishing paper. Isn't this obviously fake? She refused outright. But seeing the disappointment on the little puppy's face, her heart softened. Fine, he's my kid. If I don't spoil him, who will? Let's play. However, when it was time to write, Fusang was stumped. She had money, looks, and kids. She was a total winner in life. She really didn't know what to write. Well, I guess I'll just write what's on my mind. A little while later, Fusang was done. When she asked Qiao Yue where the envelope for the wishing paper was, he rubbed his head and pretended to have forgotten, telling her to just give him the note. That way, he could see her wish before putting it in the envelope. He praised himself for being such a little genius. Back in his room, Qiao Yue eagerly unfolded the paper. I hope to raise my resentment generator brothers to be upstanding and excellent students. I hope Yansui can forget the coldness of the past and only remember the warmth of the present. I hope Ayue can forget the darkness of his family and always stand in the sunlight. I hope they gradually become strong, so that in the future, they won't be bullied by anyone and can face life independently. May they grow up healthy and happy, safe and sound, and worry-free for their whole lives. Seeing the contents, Qiao Yue's eyes filled with emotion, and he secretly vowed to fulfill his sister's wishes. In the living room, Gu Nanshu also wanted to throw a big birthday party for his precious granddaughter and asked for Fusang's opinion. Fusang clearly didn't want one. She just wanted to celebrate at home with her grandpa and the two kids. Just then, a news report on TV caught their attention. Gushi Technology's capital chain has broken. If they can't complete their orders, they will face a 50 million yuan breach of contract penalty. After watching the news, Grandpa's face changed and he stood up to leave. Fusang sensed something was wrong with him and summoned the system to ask what was going on. The man on TV was Fusang's father, Gu Shuihai. He had married into the family and changed his surname, building his fortune on Fusang's mother's wealth. He was, in short, a lowlife who clawed his way up. But he had cheated on her, had an illegitimate daughter with someone else, and in the end, Fusang's mother had died of grief because of him. After hearing this, Fusang couldn't help but curse the scumbag and secretly prayed she would never have to see him. To surprise Fusang, the two kids started competing like crazy. Chu Yansui was learning to bake a cake with the housekeeper, while Qiao Yue meticulously decorated the party scene. The servants at the Gu residence were so envious they felt like the country owed them a little brother. On her birthday, the two kids led Fusang downstairs to surprise her. However, as soon as they reached the living room, a harsh voice ruined the mood for all three of them. What is this stuff? You dare serve this? Fusang was startled to see the person in front of her. It was her scumbag father. Gu Shuihai was lounging on the sofa, arrogantly complaining about how the service at the Gu residence had gone downhill and how they were serving such tea to guests. Seeing Fusang, he immediately put on a friendly expression. It's been a few years. Sang has gotten even prettier. Faced with his fake warmth, Fusang didn't want to bother with him and told him to get to the point. Gu Shuihai waved his hand. It's nothing important. Your aunt and I just missed you. Missed me? Fusang fought back her disgust. Then why didn't you come to see me before? Gu Shuihai was stunned. The silly girl who used to be so easy to placate. What's wrong with her today? No matter what, I have to win her over today so my business can make a comeback. He then looked at Fusang with a loving expression. Daddy has been neglectful all these years. This time, I've thrown a birthday party for you at the most expensive hotel and invited all the social elites, just so everyone can see what a beautiful and outstanding daughter I have. Fusang couldn't help but think he might as well have a sign on his face that said, I have a hidden agenda. The system also quickly reminded her that this was a trap. But Fusang agreed anyway. The two kids also sensed something was wrong and tried to persuade her to stay. Seeing the kids' dejected expressions, Fusang comforted them. I'll be back soon. Remember to tell Grandpa. Trust me, I just have something I have to do. Arriving at the party, Fusang felt out of place. To go to all this trouble, Gu Shuihai must be up to something big. Gu Shuihai was overly friendly with Fusang, but she had no interest in him and turned away coldly. This made Gu Shuihai grit his teeth in anger, but he had to hold it in for the sake of his plan. Just then, a guest asked why Gu Qingying wasn't at the party. Gu Shuihai knew his chance had come. He took the microphone and introduced Fusang to the business elites as his previously unannounced daughter, specifically emphasizing that she was the granddaughter of Gu Nanshu of the Gu group. As soon as he said that, the crowd started whispering, surprised that he had managed to latch onto the Gu family. Fusang also understood now. He had dragged her here to be a prop. She just didn't know what trick he was planning to pull. Soon, Gu Shuihai began his performance. While wishing Fusang a happy birthday, he casually revealed to the guests that Fusang was the apple of the Gu family's eye, deeply loved by old Master Gu. I'm just basking in her glory. His words, however, took on a different meaning in the ears of the crowd. Basking in her glory? Does that mean the Gu group will invest in his new project? Free money. They all started to consider investing. Seeing that he had achieved his desired effect, Gu Shuihai was thrilled. Of course, everyone here is my friend, and therefore a friend of the Gu group. He never mentioned the powerful backer, but every word pointed to them. How dare he use the Gu family's name for fraud? Fusang had finally had enough. She directly tore off Gu Shuihai's loving father mask. As soon as she spoke, the celebratory toast Gu Shuihai was about to drink froze in his hand. He almost lost his composure, but since this was his only chance to save his company, he put on a loving expression again and turned to tell Fusang a fairy tale. Fusang, however, looked at him mockingly and countered his move. Since when was the Gu group going to invest in you? At these words, the crowd was no longer in the mood for a show. They realized they had almost become the suckers Gu Shuihai was trying to scam. Gu Shuihai was furious, but still stopped Fusang, saying calmly, "Don't worry, everyone. She's just a child and can't represent the Gu group." Then do my words count? Just then, a deep, angry roar interrupted the chaos. The man was old Master Gu. As the city's richest man, even leaning on a cane, his presence was powerful. The old man looked at his granddaughter with adoration. I was afraid someone would bully our sang-song. But when he faced the crowd, his words were cold. Fusang is my only granddaughter and the future heir of the Gu group. Every word she says represents the Gu family, and those with ill intentions who want to take advantage of our family. Gu Shuihai, who he was pointing at, looked flustered. Seeing Fusang being led away by Gu Nanshu, Gu Shuihai gritted his teeth in anger. He would not let this go. When Fusang returned from Gu Shuihai's trap banquet, it was already late at night. She saw the two little guys asleep at the table, clearly having waited for her. Seeing the mountain of gifts on the table, she immediately recognized the special presents from her two kids. She picked up a handmade cat-shaped earring. She never knew Chu Yansui was so skilled with his hands. Chaoyue's gift was a necklace and a paper crane, which, when unfolded, was a test with a perfect score. The gifts from the two boys warmed Fusang's heart. She stroked their heads and whispered, "Thank you." And they had even personally made such a large, two-tiered strawberry cake. Fusang felt a little guilty for not being able to celebrate her birthday with them. She lit the candles on the cake, clasped her hands, and made a wish she hoped to celebrate her next birthday with her two kids, and she hoped they would grow up healthy and happy. After blowing out the candles, Fusang gently carried the two boys back to their rooms. Good night, Ayue. Good night, Yansui. The next morning, the two boys were still sighing about not having waited up for Fusang. When Fusang came downstairs, she wished them a good morning. When the boys saw Fusang wearing their gifts, they were both ecstatic. Fusang apologized again for coming back late and told them she loved their gifts. The two boys were overjoyed. As long as you like them, big sis! Gu Nanshu couldn't help but tease them. You were so down this morning, but as soon as she arrived, you perked right up. The two kids, having been exposed, blushed. Just then, Grandpa changed the subject and decided to transfer the company's shares to Fusang. Fusang was very surprised. Grandpa, why are you suddenly bringing this up? The two kids also looked curious. With a crash, Gu Nanshu almost smashed his bowl. The thought of Gu Shuihai bullying his precious granddaughter yesterday made the old man's anger flare up. He wanted Fusang to represent the Gu group with her head held high. Fusang quickly comforted her grandpa, telling him she hadn't been at a disadvantage and that it wasn't worth getting angry over someone like that. As for the shares, Fusang said she didn't want them because she knew she wasn't cut out for business. But seeing her grandpa still insist, Fusang passed the buck and directly transferred the shares to the two kids. Seeing their shocked expressions, she, of course, couldn't reveal that she knew these two would grow up to be overbearing CEOs. She comforted them. Don't be so surprised. I have other plans for not taking the shares. At that moment, Gu Shuihai was carefully reviewing the acquisition contract his secretary had brought him. While marveling at the buyer's generosity, his eyes were fixed on the acquirer's name. Like a blood-sucking leech, he secretly resolved to squeeze every last drop of blood from the acquirer. Soon, it was the day to meet the acquirer. Gu Shuihai secretly thought that after he scammed this big sucker, he would deal with the Gu family. He walked up to Ms. Sang with a fawning expression, but he never expected that the person sitting across from him would be Gu Fusang. Seeing Gu Shuihai's utterly shocked expression, Fusang dropped the act. She was the Ms. Sang who was acquiring his failing company. Hearing this, Gu Shuihai's emotions were on a roller coaster. The scene before him felt unreal. Fusang had the two kids go play to the side, then directly threw the acquisition contract at him. Any questions? Gu Shuihai looked at the contract carefully. There was no doubt. But why was she helping him? Was it because she didn't want Gu Nanshu to find out? The very self-satisfied Gu Shuihai began to set a trap for Fusang, asking her to invest in his new project as well. Fusang looked at him with a serious expression and asked what new project. Gu Shuihai pulled a chair over, sat down next to her, and began to lavish praise on a charity project he was currently negotiating. Fusang fought back a laugh. Wasn't her father still over 20 million in debt? Why was he doing charity? Gu Shuihai was stunned. Seeing that she wasn't easy to fool, he put on a melancholy expression and began to tell Fusang a tragic love story, all for her mother. If she were still alive today, she would definitely support me. Fusang secretly thought to herself, the biggest charity her mother ever did was marrying this scumbag. But she still asked how much the project budget was. Gu Shuihai rubbed his hands together and asked for 30 million. Perhaps sensing the power of love, Fusang said her judgment wasn't great, but this project would have nothing to do with him anymore. Gu Shuihai's jaw dropped. He didn't understand. The filial Fusang made it even clearer, officially announcing that she was firing him and telling him to leave the company and retire early. At this, Gu Shuihai flew into a rage, scolding Fusang for being unfilial, slamming the table, and throwing out a bunch of veiled insults. But Fusang just looked at him mockingly and reminded him, if you break anything, you'll have to pay for it. Then she took out the share ownership certificate, forcing him to recognize the current situation, and dialed the security department. Seeing Fusang about to leave with the two kids, Gu Shuihai launched a sneak attack from behind, but he was pinned down by the arriving security guards. Watching Fusang happily leave with the two kids, he seethed with hatred. Gu Fusang, and you care about those two kids, don't you? I will repay today's humiliation tenfold. Upon learning that Fusang was going to deal with Gu Shuihai, the people at the Gu residence got busy. Grandpa brought over a line of suit-clad thugs as bodyguards, and the household servants sharpened their knives, volunteering to join the battle. Little Qiao Yue also tied up his hair, declaring he could protect his sister. Chu Yansui also very seriously presented Fusang with a bottle of pepper spray. Fusang was secretly alarmed. That's really not necessary, but it felt good to be protected by family. At that moment, Fusang was struggling with the messy accounts of Gu Shuihai's company. Meanwhile, her grandpa was comfortably enjoying a Thai massage from the two boys. But though they were with their grandpa, their hearts were with Sang Sang. This angle was perfect for watching her. The overwhelming bills made Fusang yawn. Gu Nanshu had seen her hard work these past few days. Feeling sorry for his granddaughter, he suggested finding her a boyfriend to share the pressure. Fusang was obviously stunned. Her grandpa then sat down next to her and enthusiastically introduced the outstanding young men he had selected. Fusang was about to refuse, but she saw the concern in her grandpa's eyes. You're not a kid anymore. It's time to have a passionate romance. Faced with his undeniable enthusiasm, Fusang had no choice but to agree, and picked a less annoying-looking boy from his phone. Seeing their sister agree to a blind date, the two kids couldn't sit still. Big sis is getting a boyfriend? A level 10 alarm went off in their hearts. No one was allowed to steal their sister's affection. At 2 a.m. in a makeshift tent, the two boys began a heated discussion. Chu Yansui held a photo with a serious expression. The situation is dire. I hope we can temporarily put aside our differences and work together to find out who this guy is. Looking at the photo, he poked a hole in it with a pen. Chao Ye also smiled thinly, stating that he would never let some unknown person steal their sister. The cat and dog alliance was officially formed. 2 days later, Chao Ye found Chu Yansui with the intel. I found him. This guy is Shen Luxi's cousin. Chu Yansui also reported that he had found out the time and place of the date. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Ronghui department store. They didn't have much time. Yansui suggested calling Shen Luxi first to scout out the enemy. But Chao Yue said time was tight and directly dialed her number. Soon Shen Luxi's voice came through the phone. After they identified themselves, Shen Luxi was a bit flattered, as the male leads she had been trying to win over for so long had shown no progress. Chao Yue cleared his throat. We're calling you to ask about your cousin, Zhang Leiyu. Chu Yansui added from the side. For example, what things does he hate? What doesn't he like to do? Now Shen Luxi was even more confused. Why were they asking about things he disliked? But both of them had serious tones and promised to repay her handsomely in the future. The go-to-tool person Shen Luxi ultimately couldn't resist the temptation of their good looks and told them everything. On the other end of the line, Chu Yansui quickly jotted it down in his notebook and soon came up with a battle plan. The two, confident in their plan, exchanged a smile. Well then, everything is ready. Let's make that kid suffer. Fusang, wearing a pink dress, looked as delicate as a Barbie doll. Just as she was about to leave, the two kids rushed over, their obedient expressions flawless. The school assigned a craft project with our parents. We need our big sis to help us. Fusang felt a little apologetic. She had a blind date set up by her grandpa today. The understanding Chu Yansui immediately started fishing for information to confirm the date's location. Where are you meeting? We won't take up too much of your time and make you late, will we? Fusang smiled. It's fine. We're just meeting for a simple get-together at a nearby shopping street. The mischievous kids felt their opportunity had come and immediately got excited. It's your first date, how can he be so casual? You should go somewhere romantic like a park. Big Sis's date must have style. Chu Yansui then suggested Fusang change the date location to South Lake Park. After all, there are lots of fun things to do there, and you can go boating. That's what a real date for young people should be. Chao Ye also chimed in. That's right. I heard there are a lot of dessert shops too. Aren't dates supposed to be about eating sweet things? Fusang thought about it and realized it was true. And just like that, she fell for the kids' trick. She gently stroked their heads to thank them, not wanting to let down their good intentions. Seeing their sister agree, the cat and dog alliance was already celebrating the success of the first step of their plan. Then, the two of them took her hands and started acting cute, saying they also really wanted to go to South Lake Park. Their big, longing eyes and repeated cries of Big Sis almost made Fusang lose her way. What's with these two resentment generators today? Fusang knelt down and gently refused their request. After all, bringing 2 extra wheels on a blind date wasn't a good idea, but she promised to take them alone next time. The two kids' faces were filled with disappointment. Okay, whatever you say, Big Sis. Watching the kids leave dejectedly, Fusang felt like a big villain. The system also followed behind her, tearfully complaining about how cold-hearted she was. At the park, Fusang met her blind date. It had to be said, Zhang Leiyu was a very sunny and cheerful guy. Fusang couldn't find any fault with him. The two of them were unaware of the cat and dog agents in the bushes nearby. Agent Black Cat has locked on the target. Everything is proceeding as planned. Agent Puppy has also given the signal. As the two walked, they chatted idly. Zhang Leiyu said he had noticed Fusang a long time ago. Fusang, however, noticed the rustling bushes nearby. Curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to investigate. Sure enough, she found the two schemers inside, plotting with a map. What are you two doing? Fusang's voice came from behind them, and the startled cat and dog agents almost jumped out of their skin. Oh no, Big Sis found us! Faced with Fusang's questioning, they quickly came up with a clumsy excuse to cover their awkward situation, not forgetting to hide their anti-rival manual behind their backs. Just then, Zhang Leiyu walked over looking curious. Fusang explained awkwardly, "These are my 2 little brothers. They wanted to come here so badly, they followed me secretly. Would you mind if they joined us?" Zhang Leiyu ruffled his hair. "It's fine." To ease the atmosphere, Zhang Leiyu suggested going to the tea house up ahead to cool off. Chu Yansui's eyes lit up, and he said excitedly, "Ah Yue, I heard there's a dessert shop here with amazing ice cream. I really want to try it." Chao Yue also played the part of the perfect wingman. Yes, I want some too." Fusang looked at Zhang Leiyu helplessly. What could he do? He had to agree. Little did he know he was walking step by step into the two boys' trap. Step 1. A taste bud assault. While the two boys happily shared their desserts with Fusang, Zhang Leiyu could only smile and force down the food he hated most. Step 2. A physical assault. On the cruise boat, the boys flanked Fusang, enjoying the scenery. Behind them, the seasick Zhang Leiyu was already painting rainbows over the side. But wait, there's more. Step 3. They dragged the pollen-allergic Zhang Leiyu to a flower field, ostensibly to have him pick flowers for their sister. Zhang Leiyu, however, was lost in a fit of sneezes but still held on to his manly pride, wanting to present flowers to Fusang. Seeing this, the two kids' eyes filled with triumph. By now, even with her slow reflexes, Fusang understood their little scheme. She stopped Zhang Leiyu from buying flowers and said apologetically, "Excuse me, just a moment." She then angrily dragged the two boys aside. After walking for a while, she stopped. "You don't want me to go on this blind date, do you?" Their little plan exposed, the two of them hung their heads in guilt. Fusang sighed. "Just say what you're thinking." "I won't blame you." The two boys weakly said they didn't want their sister to go on a blind date. Fusang was confused. Why? Chu Yansui gathered his courage. "I'm afraid someone will steal you away." Chao Yue also came clean. "I'm afraid you'll get married and not want us anymore." Having spoken their minds, the two of them avoided her gaze, awaiting their judgment. Fusang, however, wondered, are all resentment generators' thought processes this cute? Seeing the hero and villain so dependent on Fusang, the system was so moved it could have cried. Fusang knelt down and said gently to the kids, "I won't go on blind dates anymore." Hearing this, the kids' eyes lit up, but they still couldn't believe it. Fusang patted their heads, confirming that she wouldn't leave them. However, she did criticize their prank. Poor Zhang Leiyu is so innocent. She flicked them both on the forehead. "You can't do this again, understand?" The two boys, realizing their mistake, apologized sincerely. Fusang smiled, relieved. She then stood up. "Wait here for a moment. I'm going to apologize to him." After Fusang left, the boys smiled in relief, but they were oblivious to the danger behind them. By the time they realized it, someone had covered their mouths and noses. Zhang Leiyu couldn't believe that the girl of his dreams was just a beautiful, fleeting encounter. When Fusang said her goodbyes, the slow-to-react Zhang Leiyu finally sensed the crisis and grabbed her wrist. Perhaps he was too nervous, but his face was slightly flushed. He looked forward to seeing her again, then realized his actions were a bit rude and his face turned even redder. Fusang had to be honest with him, telling him she was only on the blind date because of her grandpa, so if they met again, it would only be as friends. Zhang Leiyu stared blankly at the back of his dream girl as she walked away, leaving behind a beautiful regret. But when Fusang went back to find the two kids, they were gone. She took out her phone to call Chao Yue, but there was no answer. A sense of unease crept into her heart. My good boys would never run off without saying anything. She quickly called the system to check the kids' location. The system immediately opened its GPS to search for the two brothers. When the system found it couldn't locate the kids, they both panicked. It was as if they had vanished into thin air, and this scene wasn't in the original story at all. Just then, Fusang's phone rang. When she answered, a sinister voice said, "Gu Fusang, I have Chu Yansui and Chao Yue. If you want them back safely, prepare 20 million by 9 a.m. tomorrow. And remember, if you dare to call the police, I can't guarantee their safety." The kidnapper hung up. Fusang quickly asked the system if it could trace the call's location. The system could only request a trace from the main server to get a general area. Time was of the essence. Fusang decided to head to the closest point to them first. Meanwhile, in a dark warehouse, the two kids slowly woke up. A sharp pain in the back of their hands told them they had been kidnapped. While the kidnappers were away, Chu Yansui crawled toward a table with a glass on it. After the glass shattered, Chu Yansui picked up a shard to cut the ropes, but the heavy iron door creaked open. "Oh no, they're back!" Chao Yue whispered urgently. "Quick, let's pretend to be asleep. We'll act when their guard is down." Not long after they lay down, they heard footsteps. Still not awake. That anesthetic was strong enough. Then they vaguely heard them complaining that the price their boss was offering wasn't enough. Just then, the long-haired kidnapper noticed the broken glass on the floor and said sinisterly to his partner, "Looks like our little rats are being disobedient." He quickly found Chu Yansui holding the shard. "You dare pull tricks in front of me? You're asking for it!" The kidnapper viciously tried to take the shard from him. Chu Yansui gritted his teeth and held on tight, the pain in his palm making his body tremble. Qiao Yue, forgetting the danger, shouted at the kidnapper, "Let him go! If you hurt us, you won't get the ransom." But he was met with a kick from the larger man. While Chu Yansui was distracted, the long-haired kidnapper snatched the shard away. "Do you really think you'll get out of here alive even if the Gu family pays the ransom?" The kidnapper held Qiao Wei, clearly intending to kill him. Chu Yansui shouted with all his might, "We're worth more to you alive than dead." This piqued the kidnapper's interest. Facing him, Chu Yansui tried to stay calm. "If you let us go safely, the Gu family will pay you 10 times what your employer offered." The kidnapper was clearly tempted after all. He was only in it for the money. He eventually let Qiao Yue go. He turned and said sinisterly to the two kids, "Smart kids don't live very long." Meanwhile, Fusang was speeding toward them in her car. The system had confirmed the kids' exact location and had already called for a rescue team. But Fusang didn't care about that. All she could think about was the kids' safety. She floored it, ignoring the system's pleas, and crashed straight through the warehouse doors. The violent crash drew the attention of the two thugs. A fiery red Ferrari appeared before them. Fusang got out of the car, looking completely different from her usual self, the veins on the hand holding a club clearly visible. Recognizing her, Chu Yansui and Qiao Yue called out in surprise. The kidnappers, seeing only one girl arrive, started to taunt her. But Fusang didn't play by the rules. She threw the club at one of them. She was strong, and the kidnapper cried out as he was knocked to the ground. Seeing her kids in such a state, Fusang was furious. "Those are my precious resentment generators who I wouldn't even let a speck of dust touch." Hearing the fight, the other kidnapper came over, clearly shocked by her unexpected appearance. Fusang's expression turned cold, and she swung the club at the larger man. He barely dodged, a smug look on his face. The next second, she kicked him in the leg, and the searing pain made him kneel. The girl's cold gaze made the kidnapper tremble. "You dare touch my resentment generators? You must have a death wish." What followed was a flurry of wild swings, beating the two of them until they begged for mercy. The two kids witnessed the violent scene. She was cool for sure, but also terrifying. After a few swift moves, the girl, having vented her anger, dropped the club and went to check on the two kids, gently untying them. Seeing their battered state, she blamed herself for not protecting them. As the three of them were talking, one of the kidnappers crept up behind the kids with a knife. In a critical moment, Fusang shielded them with her body. A sharp pain shot through her chest and blood stained her white shirt. A shocking sight. "You are really asking to die." Fusang, fighting through the pain, straightened up, placed a hand on the man's shoulder, then kneed him below the waist. The man's vision went black and he fainted from the pain. Just then, the police arrived and subdued the kidnappers. Fusang gasped for breath, the pain making it impossible for her to stand. The kids rushed over, concerned, tears in their eyes as they saw her injury. The girl's face was pale, but she was still trying to comfort them. "It's okay, it's just a small wound, it'll be fine." But before she could finish, she collapsed. Watching the two kids cry out for her, she scoffed at herself. "My eyes must be failing me." The girl lay on a cold operating table. In the intensive care unit, a team of doctors worked frantically to save her. But Fusang's soul was already floating outside. "Am I going to die?" The system said helplessly, "You're having an out-of-body experience. What do you think?" Fusang's expression was complicated. "If the mission is cut short, does that mean I can go back? But why do I feel a little reluctant?" She sighed and turned to leave. Just then, the system stopped her. "The mission isn't over yet. You can't run." Fusang's expression was conflicted. "Don't tell me you want me to go back into that half-dead body? No thanks, I'm afraid it'll fall apart." The system looked smug. "I have another way for you to continue the mission." It then gave a sly smile and continued, "This body may not work, but we can just switch to a new one, right?" 9 years passed in a flash. A white-haired girl arrived at a new school. She was beautiful, and her arrival immediately became the talk of the school. "Everyone's saying Class 1-3 has great feng shui this year. The school prince is there, and now the school beauty has just dropped in. Mom, I want to transfer to Class 1-3 too." In the classroom, the teacher asked her to introduce herself. "I'm Fusang." The girl chose a quiet corner to sit in. Just then, the student in front of her turned around. "Fusang, do you know Chu Yansui and Qiao Yue?" Fusang was stunned. The female student then added inexplicably, "You look really familiar, like a big sister I knew when I was little." Faced with this overly chatty and enthusiastic student, Fusang felt a strange sense of familiarity. The system then reminded her, "Lady Fusang, that's Shen Luxi, the original female lead." Fusang was shocked. She's all grown up? I wonder what the two kids look like now. Quick, pull up their pictures for me. The useless system, however, said that since they had just transmigrated, it hadn't organized the data yet. For the rest of the time, the human and the system just stared at each other in mutual disgust. Lost in her thoughts, Shen Luxi's voice broke through. "Fusang, what's wrong?" Fusang felt a little awkward. "Sorry, I've never met you guys before." Hearing her answer, Shen Luxi was a little disappointed. But with her years of transmigration experience, she felt something was off. She then continued to probe enthusiastically. "Fusang, did you know? Chu Yansui and Chao Yue are the most popular guys in our school. Interested in learning more?" If she were Gu Fusang, she would definitely be curious about the hero and villain. Ring, ring, ring. The bell for class interrupted Shen Luxi's plan. As Fusang was thinking, the back door of the classroom was pushed open. With a creak, Fusang looked up curiously. It was an extremely handsome boy, his long dark eyes holding a lazy indifference. A silver beauty mark under his right eye was particularly alluring, giving him a roguish charm. The teacher's annoyed voice came, "Chu Yansui, you're late for class. Don't you know to say, 'Here, get out'?" Fusang, who had been dozing off, immediately woke up at the sound of his name. She couldn't accept it. How did her kid grow up to be such a heartthrob? He was nothing like the obedient and cute boy he used to be. Fusang discussed with the system whether she could send this kid back for a do-over. Chu Yansui, however, completely ignored the teacher and walked in. He glanced at the back of the new girl, Fusang, and said in a cold, commanding tone, "Hey, I don't like having a desk mate." "Move." Fusang was annoyed. "I'm too lazy to move. Are you always this rude?" When the boy saw her face, his pupils suddenly constricted. After a long moment, he murmured, "Big sis?" Chu Yansui clenched his fists at his sides. Then, under the gaze of the entire class, he left the classroom. Everyone thought he had left in anger, but a few seconds later, they heard a low magnetic voice say, "Here." The teacher and students were stunned. It was surreal. Why did Chu Yansui suddenly listen? The boy's face was flushed as he returned to his seat, but his gaze was fixed on the girl beside him. At that moment, Fusang felt a little guilty. "He didn't recognize me, did he?" The system was speechless. "Don't even think about it. Our reincarnation system is very strict." Ring, ring, ring. After being stared at for a whole period, Fusang finally heard the bell. Just then, Chu Yansui came up to her again. "What's your name?" The girl, fighting her guilt, answered, "Fusang." The same simple two words, Fusang. It was like a thunderclap in Chu Yansui's mind. Suddenly, another student's voice came. "Chu, the teacher wants to see you in the office. And Chao, should you let him know?" Chu Yansui looked annoyed. "I'm not close with Chao Yue. Don't come to me with his problems." He then turned and left. Hearing this, Fusang was anxious. That can't be right. The two resentment generators were so close before. How did they become enemies? "System, you better give me a reasonable explanation." The system, on the verge of tears, explained, "They had a misunderstanding after you passed away. Your job now is to get them to make up." But Fusang didn't understand. What good could my death possibly do? Just then, the heroine Shen Luxi's voice came. "Fusang, you're amazing! Chu Yansui actually talked to you!" Fusang was sweating. Wow, is it really such a big deal for him to talk to someone? This piqued Shen Luxi's gossipy side. "You don't know. He's famously cold and hard to get close to. For him to be so forward now, he might be trying to woo you." Wow, a resentment generator hitting on me? Isn't that a bit far-fetched? Shen Luxi clearly looked like she was enjoying the drama. Is she really not Fusang? Well, whatever. The girl enthusiastically took Fusang's hand. "Let's go to gym class together!" But Fusang's new body had terrible stamina, so she declined, using the excuse of not feeling well. The warm sunlight streamed through the window blinds. Fusang lay lazily on her desk, as content as a cat. Chu Yansui, who was skipping class, came into the classroom and stared blankly at Fusang. He had seen that expression on his big sis before. It wasn't just similar, it was identical. Even the sound of her name was very similar. Do people have past lives? The boy scoffed. Even if they do, it wouldn't happen to me. A person who can't even protect those around him. How could he ask for the god's favor? He then walked away. Hearing the noise, Fusang lazily opened her eyes. She looked at Chu Yansui's handsome face, which screamed trouble, and suddenly said, "You look more like a delinquent than a student." Chu Yansui stopped in his tracks, then slowly turned around, his voice laced with a hint of coldness. "Do you have a problem with me, Fusang?" Fusang, who had just woken up, was a little groggy. "No, I just don't like your delinquent look." The domineering girl's smile was soft, but her words weren't very pleasant. But Chu Yansui didn't get angry. He silently leaned closer to Fusang, bending down to meet her gaze, his smile a little alluring. "Then what kind of person do you like, Fusang?" He stared intently into her eyes as if trying to find some evidence, but to his frustration, she showed no reaction. Fusang yawned, a tragic resentment-generating machine. Even the system was freaking out. "What kind of crazy talk is that?" Chu Yansui was taken aback by her words, but he soon chuckled. "You have unique taste, Fusang." He then added with a hint of sadness, "You're a lot like someone I used to know." Fusang remained calm. "Is that so? The world is a big place. It's normal for people to be similar." The boy sighed, as if all his energy had been drained, and turned to leave. Back at home, Chu Yansui tried to calm himself down. But whenever he closed his eyes, Fusang's image would appear. "Why does she look so much like my big sis?" Just then, his phone buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. He opened it and saw 2 simple messages. A new person who looks a lot like Big Sis came to school. It was clearly from Chao Yue. As he was thinking, the phone rang. An anxious voice came through. "Did a new transfer student who looks a lot like Big Sis come to our class?" Chu Yansui, as usual, went to ask Fusang for help with a problem. Looking at the obedient kid, Fusang took his hand and started to explain the difficult points of the problem. The next second, she was enveloped by a sturdy shadow. Fusang looked up in shock, her vision filled with a charming, devilish face. "Big Sis, I still don't quite get it like this. Why don't we go a little deeper?" Fusang's pupils constricted, and with a cry of "No!" she jolted awake from the shock. Having lost her wits, Fusang secretly felt relieved that it was just a dream. Early in the morning, when Fusang arrived at the classroom, she found that the 2 kids had skipped class again. She complained unhappily, "What's with these rotten kids? How did they all go bad?" Back at her seat, Shen Luxi greeted her enthusiastically. "Why are you sighing so early in the morning?" "Are you in a bad mood?" Fusang pointed to the empty seats. "Do they often skip class?" At this, the gossip-loving Shen Luxi perked up. "Not really often, but they're occasionally late. Besides, Chu Yansui's grades are at the bottom, and he's always getting into fights, so the teachers don't bother with him. As for Chao Yue, his grades are so good, the teachers don't need to manage him." Seeing Fusang's shocked expression, Shen Luxi's interest grew. She was about to say more when the teacher interrupted. "Morning reading is still class, no chatting." Fusang rested her chin on her hand, clearly preoccupied. "What happened in the years I was gone? How did the 2 kids change so much?" After class, as Fusang was walking, she asked the system to gather information on the kids from the past few years. As she was going upstairs, she bumped into someone around a corner. But to her surprise, the other person spoke first. "Can't you watch where you're going, or are you in a hurry to die?" The boy in front of her had shoulder-length hair with some strands falling by his ears. His long, beautiful peach blossom eyes stared straight at her. Fusang looked up, annoyed, and after just one glance, she called out his name. "Chao Yue? Big Sis?" the boy subconsciously called out. The suppressed emotion in his voice made Chao Yue a little out of control. A look of wild joy flashed in his beautiful eyes, only to be replaced by disappointment the next second. "Sorry, I mistook you for someone else." Fusang felt incredibly depressed. "My sweet Yue, how did you learn to be like this?" Chao Yue's handsome face was filled with sadness. "She's just the transfer student who looks a lot like Big Sis. She looks like her, but she's not her." The boy's departing figure looked desolate. But this scene was witnessed by the other students, who all took out their phones to take pictures. The school beauty and the school prince just bumped into each other. There's something in their eyes. Quick, post it on the school's forum. Back in the classroom, Fusang felt a headache coming on, her worry for the 2 kids growing. Just then, Shen Luxi rushed over and grabbed her. "Fusang, come quick, they said Chu Yansui went to the hospital." When she arrived, she found a middle-aged couple pointing at Chu Yansui and yelling at him, the vicious words clashing with their well-dressed appearance. But the boy being yelled at looked completely unbothered. The furious woman raised her hand to slap him. However, her raised arm was caught in midair. Fusang looked at the woman with a cold expression. She would not allow anyone to hurt her resentment generator. But the woman she stopped became even more agitated. "Where did this little brat come from? Mind your own business!" Chu Yansui was very surprised by the girl's appearance. "What are you doing here?" Fusang glanced at the two people and answered with a raised eyebrow. "Backing you up." "You're backing him up?" The woman looked at Fusang's figure as if she had heard the world's biggest joke. "Can you even handle it? You clearly haven't experienced the harsh realities of society." Fusang smirked, looking at the two of them playfully. "You think Chu Yansui's family is rich, so you're trying to scam him, right?" The woman was clearly hit where it hurt. She looked flustered, but her expression quickly changed to anger and she shrieked, "What do you mean, scam?" "Get your facts straight. He's the one who put my son in the emergency room. Shouldn't he pay up?" Fusang wasn't flustered. She turned to Chu Yansui and asked, "Who started it?" Seeing the face that looked so much like his big sis, Chu Yansui's Adam's apple bobbed. He felt a strange sense of grievance. "He insulted my sister. I was just defending myself." Fusang, of course, believed him. "Did you hear that? We were just defending ourselves." The man cracked his knuckles and was about to come at them. But Fusang's tone was laced with mockery. "You want to hit me? No problem at all." The next second, she told Chu Yansui, "Take out your phone and record it. Make sure you get a clear shot of him hitting me first. As a weak high school student, I'm just defending myself." For some reason, hearing Fusang describe herself as weak made Chu Yansui want to laugh, but he still obediently took out his phone and started recording. Then he saw Fusang puff out her chest and march forward. "Come on, hit me, I promise I won't scam you." The man was forced back a few steps by Fusang. He nervously glanced at his wife. She cursed, then went to grab Fusang with both hands, but Fusang caught her in a grip. "To be honest, I don't hit women, but since you're asking for it, I guess I'll have to make an exception." What followed was Fusang's counterattack. She was strong and pushed the woman to the ground. The woman cried out in pain, "You uneducated brat, if I don't make you pay for this today, I'll be damned." But Fusang told her seriously, "You were the one who tried to hit me just now. You fell on your own. I was just defending myself. My phone recorded it all." But the woman lay on the ground. "I don't know anything about recording. All I know is that you hit me." At that moment, Chu Yansui, looking at Fusang arguing with the woman, was lost in thought. She was so much like his big sis. When he was bullied before, his big sis would also support him without question. Chu Yansui pulled on Fusang's arm, his eyes downcast, and said softly, "I can handle this myself. Let's go back." Fusang was reluctant. "No way. You're my resin." Before she could finish, the system reminded her in her mind that she couldn't reveal her identity as Gu Fusang to anyone, or it would cause chaos. Faced with Chu Yansui's gaze, Fusang calmly changed her tune. "Classmates should help each other out. I can't let you be bullied by people like this. In this world, there are always some people who will believe in you unconditionally." Chu Yansui looked at the girl protecting him, but still asked her to leave. Hearing this, Fusang was annoyed and shook off his hand. "I never realized you were so stubborn before." In an instant, Chu Yansui caught the keyword in her sentence. "Before? She's seen me before?" The question lingered in his mind, but before he could ask, a doctor walked over. "The patient is awake. Where are the family members?" The woman eagerly rushed to the doctor. "I'm his mother." The doctor took off his mask. "We've treated his scrapes, he just has some bruises, nothing serious." As the woman followed the doctor away, she didn't forget to leave a threat. "You just wait! I'll make you pay for this!" But neither of them seemed to care about her words. Fusang rubbed her chin and remarked, "Nice job, just the right amount of force." Chu Yansui's eyelashes trembled. "You don't think I'm scary?" Fusang burst out laughing. Her almond eyes curved, their light making one feel a little inadequate. "He started it. You were just defending yourself. What's so scary about that?" Chu Yansui looked at her playfully and continued to press. "How can you be so sure I'm telling the truth? What if I was the one who started it?" Fusang answered seriously, "My gut tells me you wouldn't lie." Of course she couldn't say, "I practically watched you grow up." By the time things were settled, it was evening. Their shadows stretched out on the stone path. He said in a low voice, "I owe you one for today. What do you want?" Fusang thought for a moment before saying, "Wear your clothes properly. Don't be so sloppy." You should learn from Chao Yue, he dresses so neatly. Oh. Before she could finish, the boy beside her's expression instantly turned dark. He cut her off. Are you close with Chao Yue? Fusang remembered bumping into resentment generator number 2 on the stairs today. We've met once. Chu Yansui suddenly bent down to meet her gaze, his dark eyes devoid of any warmth. Love at first sight, Fusang? Don't judge me by his standards. I won't forget today's favor, but don't mention his name in front of me again. Fusang looked at the boys retreating back with a complicated expression. It looks like the two kids' brotherly bond is really broken. But as angry as he was, Chu Yansui didn't just storm off. He walked Fusang back with a cold expression, watching her go into her apartment building before disappearing into the night. Chu Yansui himself didn't understand why he would come to school so early in the morning, nor did he understand what his recent dreams about Fusang meant. He yawned and went to the mirror. He looked at his reflection, satisfied with his outfit, but then he remembered what Fusang had said last night about him looking sloppy. His long fingers touched the loose collar of his shirt, and he struggled for a moment. Finally, he reluctantly buttoned it up. Just then, the discussion between two students looking at their phones caught his attention. They were mysteriously discussing the gossip about Fusang and Chao Yue being a couple. Hearing this, the boy subconsciously took out his phone. Seeing the picture of the two of them, although it didn't mean much, the darkness in his eyes betrayed his feelings. Move! A cold voice came from behind him. Chu Yansui subconsciously turned around and saw it was Chao Yue. Seeing the main character of the gossip, Chu Yansui's already foul mood soured even more, and he blocked the doorway with his leg. As the two of them stared at each other, the tension was so thick it felt like a fight could break out at any moment. Chao Yue was completely uninterested in his petty tricks. He kicked away the so-called obstacle and walked straight to his seat. Students from the next class also ran over to see the rare sight of the two school princes in the same classroom. Seeing them in class together felt surreal. Ring, ring, ring! The class bell rang, accompanied by the sound of a girl running. She finally made it to the classroom just before the last bell. Without even wiping the sweat from her face, Fusang's tired eyes led her to collapse on her desk and fall asleep. Beside her, Chu Yansui looked at the girl with a gentle expression. Is it because you got back too late yesterday? He remembered something and took out a can of coffee, placing it gently beside her. Behind them, Chao Yue also noticed the girl. I can't believe she's sitting... But what did Chu Yansui mean by giving her coffee? His gaze immediately darkened with a warning. No one can be a substitute for big sis. Chu Yansui clearly felt Chao Yue's stare but couldn't be bothered to respond and turned his head away. After morning reading was gym class. Fusang yawned as she made her way to the field. The system was complaining non-stop beside her. I brought you here to repair the relationship between the hero and the villain. How can you just sleep? Do you have any idea how bad the tension was between them just now? Fusang sighed helplessly, saying she knew what she was doing and went to change. When she came out again, the clear sky had suddenly become overcast with dark clouds and rumbling thunder. When she got back to the classroom, she found Chao Yue hiding in a corner, trembling. With every clap of thunder, the pain on the boy's handsome face grew more pronounced.